how fast Twitch knows we're streaming. That was fast, unlike last week where it took like a full minute and a half. Twitch is still blocking a surprising amount of the screen with their ad for their new creator dashboard. But that's okay. I can see chat, which means that we're ready to go. Streaming, game dev, doing underwater stuff. Beast. And then over here. Exciting. Someone said something strange on one of my chat feeds, so I thought I would look at it, and it took more clicking than I thought to get through. That's okay. So here what we've got is our level setup, and in the previous episode, we did some work setting up some basic ideas as to things like mounting systems and stuff like that. Just very, very basic setups. There are a lot of things I want to do today, but I think the number one thing I want to do is create a proper machinery material. The machinery material we are using right now is pretty primitive, so I'd like to set us up a little bit better. I'm going to shunt you over to Phoenix Wright for a second while I open the relevant programs. Grind. And so this is Machine Bracket. We're going to want to open that up and save it as machine. Oh, we can just keep saving it as Machine Bracket. All we really need to do is, no, I guess we do need to have two separate ones. We're going to call this one Machine Mount, I suppose. I'll bring you back. No reason to keep you in the dark here. Boom. Machine Mount. So this is Machine Bracket, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a different texture for our machine mounts. The machine mounts have a different set of priorities. So what we're going to want to do is create a backdrop. By the way, I'm like super slouched back in my chair, taking it super easy. So if my enunciation is a little bit different than usual, it's because I'm just the laziest person alive today. Do. That's not quite right. Do. There's our brushed metal. Doesn't look brushed enough, so we'll just go over here into the fingertip section. And brush it a little bit. There, that's... No, undo. We're going to want to have a much tighter set of brushes. That was too loose. Stop that. It's hard to do this with a mouse. Usually I use a tablet, but I'm just leaned way too far back to use a tablet today. There we are. That's better. So that's going to be our brushed metal texture. And then what we'll do is we will put some extra bits on top. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to reserve one chunk of this for bright materials and one chunk of it for dark materials and one chunk of it for details. So to do that, we're just going to make this section here dark. Boom. Very exciting. And there's nothing particularly special about that, but we are going to want to add in some patterning just so that it feels a little bit more interesting. So we'll go ahead and put in some gray-blue medium tones in the middle here. That's a little bit too light. And then we'll add in a little top layer, which is just going to be some slightly brighter stripes over here. And to do that, we will just go ahead and shoop. There we are. Exciting. And we'll just duplicate that and create maybe a bar of 3 or 4 stripes. I guess it'll be 4 because that's easiest. And down at the bottom, this is where we can put some text or stuff. I don't really have any text or stuff planned, so we'll just go ahead and do the same thing down here, but we're going to want to put in some pasty white, which we will bring back so that's not quite as bright. Oh, it looks like I accidentally doubled up. Undo. There we are. And then we'll put in some text, some black text. This is a machine. Do not operate under the influence of alcohol. Woo. Obviously just placeholder text at this point. And we'll go ahead and save that as machinемount.png. Then we'll pop back over here into Unity, take that machine mount, duplicate it, create a normal map out of the grayscale, and a kabaloom. Call that machine mount in. Go back over here into the object in question. And down here you can see our machine mount material. We just need to drop the machine mount textures onto it. So there's one. There's the other. And we can brighten it way up. Boom. All right. So you can see that what we've got here is super primitive, but it already is looking a little bit more like a machine than it did before. The normal map is too strong. We'll just pull that back. But what we actually want to do is adapt the actual normals in the setup so that they operate more correctly with our needs here. And that means, first off, this is going to be way too big. So we're going to take this and shrink it. And then we're just going to add in like more words over here or something. Boop, boop. These are much too large. Once again, we're just testing the waters here. It's no biggie. Just drop that in. And that should change it so that the letters are much smaller. But unfortunately for us, machine mount in is now incorrect. So we're going to want to delete it. And then we'll recreate it. The alternative is we could use machine mount the basic. Let's try this. Because one of our options is to use the machine mount basics as a height map instead of having a separate normal map. In theory, they're very close to the same thing. In practice, I'm not 100% sure. The lighting will behave differently than with a normal map. For now, we'll go ahead and just leave it like this. Well, I don't know, because the normal map provides us, the brushed metal looks different with a normal map. Here, let me go ahead and put the normal map in. And I'll show you. Normal map, create from grayscale, apply. And then down here, drop that normal map in. You can see how the brushed metal has a completely different look when there's a normal map involved. And that's simply because the normal map does not change the height of the material. It simply changes the direction that the material is oriented. Whereas the height map doesn't change the direction it's oriented, it changes the depth. So like the letters being embedded deep underneath the surface, we get some fun normal mappy. See how that's different? That's not the normal map, that's the height map doing that. The normal map is what's making the interiors black because they're pointed in different directions. Fun little details. Either way, let's go ahead and just leave both of them on for now because why not? It's going to go up here to the texture meshes, or the meshes. I don't know why I keep saying texture. We're going to go over into our machines. Stupid. And we're going to revamp our maps. Because right now, these maps are just smart unwraps, which means that they're completely random. So, well, that's not it. Why did you do that? There we are. And then we're going to go over into the UV editor here, and you can see that this is what we've got for our smart unwrap. But we already know what sort of setup we have for our actual texture. We already know that there's a band at the top that's bright, and then a band in the middle that's dark, and then a band at the bottom that has text on it. So with that in mind, we can start to rearrange this to be however we want. And the first step is to rotate it 90 degrees, and then shrink it into the middle here. Now, this isn't really the ideal way to do it simply because there's so much wasted space. So what we can do is we can grab some of these and move them off to the side like this. And then we can just scale everything up. But what we really want is to take some of these faces and put them in other places. So this face, for example, we are going to move it to the bottom because this is a place where we have a ton of texture stuff. Now, one problem we've got here is that we can't actually see the texture we're using, just because I'm a lazy person. But we could fix that if we cared. It turns out we don't. That's not right. I don't know what I was in, but this one seems correct. I was trying to hit the UV button. No, not live unwrap, just Smart UV project. There we are. And you can see that that's definitely the wrong location if we want things to make sense. But we don't need these UV map elements to be unique. They can overlap. So we'll just drag them all up to the top. How exciting. All right, so we can save that. And then we can go back over here into Unity, and we'll see that it'll pop differently. See? So a couple of small details. First off, this here doesn't really look right. I think it's probably worth adding the texture into Blender at this point if we're going to be doing this kind of stuff. The problem is that we don't have any materials attached to this object yet, so we're going to have to add some. So here's a new material. And we're going to go ahead and call this machine mount, because that's what it's called in Unity. And we basically want to switch out this base color for an image. Unfortunately for us, we don't currently have the image loaded into Blender. We're going to have to open it. I got to send you back over to Phoenix Wright, since much of my Blender directory is work-related. So if we go over here into the correct spot and pick machine mount, well, that should work. All right, so in theory, that's correct. Yeah, so there it is. You can see it. Now, the only problem with this is, of course, that it's ugly. But that's okay. That's fine. So here we can see that our attempts to put things into the right places was not entirely successful. So we'll just scale things down and slot them in as we need. In addition, over here, this guy, I think what we're actually going to want to do is extrude them, and then shrink the extrusion down until it is specifically above this bracket, like so. And then we can make that extrusion. So if we grab these, move them over, and then we'll just like flip the whole thing. There we go. Very, very primitive. We'll probably do more of this sort of thing later, but we can just extrude in a touch to make that really pop. Then we'll grab the whole face panel and re-extrude it because this is obviously no longer in the right spot. Rotate 90 and shrink it and put it in, I don't know. I think that's fine. Now for the rest of this, we're going to want to take these panels over here and move them into, oh no, that was correct. Move them into a spot where they get some lovely patterns on them, because that will add a lot of detail. And as you can see, this is what we in the business call half-assed. I don't have a specific set of textures. I'm not painting onto it using any kind of special tools or anything. I'm just kind of winging it, and whatever comes out because I don't care enough. Aubrey Beardsley says, are you making a lewd game this time? I don't think so. I'm making the same game I've been making for quite a while. I mean, technically speaking, a lot of people have fetishes about people in diving suits, but that's not why I'm making the game. There we go. So here you can see our messy setup for this machine. We'll just move it up a notch, and then we'll clean up all of these coordinates so that they suck a little bit less. And I think that the best way to do that is probably to separate out the top and bottom elements. I'm a little bit confused as to why Aubrey Beardsley even thought I would make a lewd game. I guess there are technically naked people in this game, since I just used a generic make human model. Alright, so that's more or less how I want that to look, right? And then back here, this needs to be just the dark region, but unfortunately for us, there is no super dark area. So we're just going to go with a kind of medium dark, I suppose. So I guess we'll just kind of stick it in here. And then for these, we'll go ahead and just make them bright. Interesting. Well, that's fine. All right, let's see how that looks. Not great. So the real problem here for me is that the brushed metal in the background doesn't look like, it's not dark, and we need it to be dark. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new texture here, or a new material, my bad, which we're just going to call dark. We're going to assign this to the dark material and give it a default color of dark. And that should allow us to have a separated material for these two cubes that is just dark. So to do that, we just go down into the renderer and we find ourselves the materials. We say that it's size 2, and we make that second material something dark. There we are. So that is a little bit more like I intended. And you can see how already it's starting to pick up and seem a little bit more machine-like. We've got the lighting turned off. So if I hit play and we go in with the ability to actually see it in situ, you can see how it looks more machine-like. At least that's the hope. So we're probably going to be replacing this machine eventually. It's not a big deal if it doesn't look perfect right now. We're going to evolve things. We're still getting that weird camera lag. I'm not sure what's up with that. We're not losing frames. I think it might be the recording software. I don't know what was with that red flash. If we go down into the profiler, and we drag that off to the side so that you guys can't see it. Yeah, I mean, we're getting... Okay, so we are in fact getting a drop every second or so. It goes from being 100 down to something much lower. What's causing that? It is garbage collection, looks like. So, you can see here, this dip might be what's causing our camera spasms. And this spike happens at precisely the same time. And this spike here is, I believe, garbage collection. I can't friggin' see it. It's like dark gray on top of black. Let's go ahead and just... There we are. Now I can see it a little bit better. No, it's still super dark. Who chose this color scheme? Why can't I move this window? Oh, that was annoying. Yeah, I can't see. But I think that what we've got here is a huge memory alloc every couple of seconds. 13 megabytes of memory allocation, maybe? No. What color is that? Yeah, so it looks like it's a garbage collection allocation. So something is garbage collecting, and it is causing these delay spikes. Now, how big are these delay spikes? Well, if we take a look, what we've got here is a... looks like it tops out at 20 milliseconds, which should be quite a few. I mean, it's not a real slow render. I can't tell how many... oh, wait, hold on. Down is better. My bad. Sorry, that's actually things going well. So no, I was wrong. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Aubrey Beardsley said that he wished I would make a lewd game. I think there are plenty of people making lewd games out there. If I wanted to make a living off of making video games as an indie dev, that's probably what I would do. But I'm just a hobbyist, and I don't really have anything important to say on the side of lewd things, so I guess I won't bother. Yeah, so although I was just trying to prove my point, this is actually very healthy. It's all like 80 and 90. It doesn't ever drop below 80 or 90 frames per second, which is why the camera lag is so strange. Why is there camera lag if we're never dropping below 90 frames a second? Because, I mean, it's very clearly like a quarter-second camera lag. Let's see if we can see it happen here. I'm not getting it right now. There's a little bit of a camera jitter. We're going at a steady 100 frames per second here, so, or 80. So, yeah, you can see it, a little glitch right there. Little glitch, little glitch. See, I don't know if you can see that on Twitch, but there's a little glitch that you can't see on Twitch, where just like for one frame the camera isn't. See that? Did you feel that? See that? That right there. That little hiccup. You can see that, right? No, I can't get it anymore. I'm getting a little teeny bit of a hint of it, but there, that. See that jitter? I don't know what's causing that right there, that nasty jitter. But it's not a frame drop because we have completely 100, you know, it's just a standard 80 frames per second throughout that whole sequence. See? Perfectly healthy. So I'm not sure. It must be something in the code of the camera, but I'm not sure what that would be. If we take a look at the camera, it's up here in the player. Here's the camera gimbal. We got this player camera script, and one of the things it might be is that the player camera script might be firing too early. We'll go down into the project settings, script execution order, and look for the player camera. And there it is, at the bottom. The only thing worse than the player camera is the rope handler, and I'm pretty sure it's not the rope handler's fault since this condition predates rope handling. It might be that the player camera is doing something in update when it should be doing something in late update. That is surprisingly common. So here's update, right? Shall we just try and switch it over to late update and see what happens? It might be the player inputs because we are using... I'm not sure. Let's just see whether this fixes it. It should have recompiled by now. I think it might be... That's weird. Changing it over to late update certainly changed how the light works. That's kind of interesting. The light is supposed to be attached to my forehead. It is clearly not attached to my forehead anymore. That's very strange. Are we still getting the jitter? It feels like we're still getting the jitter. Yeah. Yeah, we are. That didn't fix it. But it did break stuff. Always nice. Go ahead and set it back to being update. And let's get on. Start going on with this. So what we've done is we've created some pipes and some stuff, but what we don't have is any kind of mission system. So what we're going to do right now is create ourselves a nice little mission system. The mission systems in this game are very, very basic. They can be randomized or they can be manual, and we're going to be using both for this particular setup. So to create a mission, we're going to want to choose a place to put it. I think that putting it within the level might be a good idea. Of course, there are lots of other things that should be within the level but aren't. It's probably worth dropping them into the level so that everything is in the right heading. Dropping the rope holder into the level will cause all of the ropes to recalculate, which is why we had that little hang there, but that's fine. Now what we're going to do is create an empty object, which we will call mission. And we'll just drop the mission into the mission. So in here somewhere, there is a mission script. There we are. Mission. The only issue is that we don't have a mission guide anymore. I'm not sure whether it survived. There is a mission here. So there's the HUD guide for this mission. So we're going to go ahead and select it. Oh, is it inside? No, it's inside the other level prefab. There it is. So this is simply a very simple HUD guide that points to the next thing that we're looking to do. Only problem is I believe we deleted the mesh that we were using for it because there is no mesh attached here anymore. Still, we can copy this and then we can paste it into our new element. There it is. Paste. And then we'll just drop that in as our mission guide. But we won't be able to see anything because it's missing the mesh. So the mesh was a simple ring, and I must have just been using a ring in one of the files, and then it was in the wrong file, and I ended up just deleting the file it was in, or deleting the meshes within a file because it wasn't in the right spot. So let's find ourselves a correct system for it. It should be under effects. And I believe it was here under effects. This looks a little bit light. My guess is that I deleted it. Yeah, it looks like I deleted it. So we're going to create it again. No biggie, right? As I recall, it had very strict UV requirements. I don't remember what they were, though. Anyway, we're going to add in a circle. Make it 64. I'm going to go inside the circle and extrude and expand like this. And then we'll just create one little bloop. And what we'll do is we will delete half of it because I know that the requirements were mirrored. I just don't remember what they were. There we are. So we'll just go in and add that mirror modifier. Makes everything happy. We'll hiccup a whole bunch straight into the mic. That's always what people come here for. Where's the... Oh, God, this is one of the old files. Is it possible to reset this window layout to the default? There's got to be a way, right? Load. I don't want to load factory settings. I want to load my startup file factory settings. Oh, well. I don't know. Oh, well. We'll just have to deal with it. I think we can just unwrap. Yeah, see, there it is. Only question I have is is this right side up? Is it upside down? Well, we'll find out, I suppose. And I actually don't want it to be like this. So we're going to undo, 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 undo. There we are. We want to get the UV map working before we distort it. I remember clearly that distortion has to be done after so that it doesn't screw up. So once again, unwrap. Boom. Only problem here is I am not at all sure that that's how it's supposed to look. We'll go ahead and name this HUD guide or something similar. And we'll pop back over here. Good. There's our HUD guide. Now, the HUD guide is currently using, so you can see that this is wrong. It looks like it's 90 degrees off because it's supposed to be on the Z, or I guess Y element here, and it's not. So if we rotate this by 90, yeah, and then we can just grab this guy, move them up. We should get that little spike. Perfect. That's how it should be, I believe. Not 100% on this, but I think so. Anyway, the missions have a couple of elements to them. So we're going to create some more of these elements. This first element is going to be room 1. And it's going to be a mission section. So we've got mission regions, which are areas where we put random mission elements. They're not the same as what you might be thinking. What we need is a mission scene, because a mission scene is something that happens within a mission. So just for the sake of having this in some place recognizable, we're going to move the whole mission setup element here into the main room. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I don't want it to be floating down below the room. I'd like it to be somewhere that feels correct in terms of, you know, when I'm editing it. Because I'm going to be adding some more mission help displays and, you know. So we've got a mystery set here, and you can see that the mysteries are things that turn on and off after other mysteries. And if we look at what the mysteries actually are, they are something called a mystery. The mysteries here are these. A mystery is a thing you learn about by doing objectives, which means that the objectives and the scenes and the mysteries are all different. I was misremembering. The mission scene is them describing stuff to us. The mission objective is us going somewhere and doing something, acquiring the objective. And then the mission mystery is the mission itself has a narrative that unfolds as you do things. So for that, we're going to go ahead and create another empty object in here. This is going to be what is it called? Mystery. We'll just describe it, brush it out, and then we'll refine it. So this is going to be the mystery system here, and you can see that we've got some objectives and some exposition. We do not want this to be a mission objective. This is in fact a category where we can put mission objectives, but inside this mystery we can add ourselves objectives and exposition. So this is going to be objective 1, and we're just going to drop the objective onto it there, boom, and we're going to want to move it someplace, and it's actually going to be a physical object. It's not at the moment, but it's gonna be. We'll just put it here for now. And what we'll do is we will create a cube right there. Boom. No, inside of the objective, you idiot. There we are. So that's going to be our objective visual, just for the sake of having a visual. Now, as I recall, this actually requires a different setup. So we're going to go over into the other level prefab and take a quick little look. If we take a look at the science mystery here, we've got this highlightable object. This highlightable object is what allows the mission objective to actually get fired up. So we're going to have to add a highlightable object here. Boom. So the highlightable object allows us to specify a mesh renderer of our choice, which means that we can drag it onto the objective rather than having it on the visual. And all we really have to do is specify that it's this thing that's the mesh renderer. And the bounds, we can drop in the same question. Boom, it's the bounds. And when we want it to actually fire, we drop the mission objective in here and we tell it to fire the mission objective. I wonder let's just take a quick look here. Interact, send message. Yeah, so it is that you go through and you tag the mission objective. Objective complete. So in this way, we should be able to get the mission objective to fire whenever we want the highlightable object to fire. Now the only thing is that the mission objective currently isn't bound to anything. If we take a look at the small ruins up here, the way that this is oriented is you can see how we've got the ability to turn it off and then set objective complete. We didn't turn it off on the other one yet. We'll probably do that though. And then down here, the mission objective, what it does is it changes a visual, but it doesn't do anything else. Okay, that's fine. We'll just leave it like that for now, and we'll see whether or not it works. The only thing I want to do is make sure that we can turn off the availability of this object. So, if we wander on over, it should be there. Yeah, it's over there. The cops are coming. For those who are just chiming in, I'm super leaned back and relaxed. I'm kind of like coding in sloth mode today. So I don't believe that the highlightable will actually highlight it because it's not using a highlightable visual. But we should be able to still click on it. So you can see that we just clicked on it and it became unavailable. I don't know if you saw that, but I did. So it works, but we're going to want to switch this cube over to having a highlightable material so that we can actually see when we're highlighting it. Might be good. Highlight without glow? Why is it pitch black? It's not supposed to be pitch black. So if we take a look at the small ruins have a couple of elements to them. The cylinder, man-made holographic, and here's the broken. Here it is. So this is man-made generic. Trying to figure out where I put in the highlightables. Oh, it's man-made generic. Yeah, that's the highlightable. Okay, so the material we're going to be using is man-made generic. Oh, that's not the material. There it is. Doop. There we go. Obviously, this is a very temporary. You know what? That's too far to walk, to swim. We're going to just go ahead and move our character. Oh, I forgot how long it takes. This version of Unity is super slow. I think it unserializes every object in the scene every time you tell it to stop running. Which it turns out that's like really obnoxiously slow. Who could have guessed? It doesn't appear to be highlighting. So if we take a look down here at the highlightable object, there it is. The glow counter is at 1. Oh, it doesn't have a glow curve. Apparently I defaulted it to not having a glow curve, which was an interesting choice on my part. So really, this should be the glow curve. Boom, there we are. So it's obviously still strictly temporary, but you can see how this is now an object, and we can click on it, and it does stuff. We haven't told it to do anything yet, though, so that's our next step. Down here inside of Objective 1, we can add in some dialogue if we choose. So one of our dialogue elements can be a mission scene element popped in here. I'm trying to remember what mission scene elements we've got. We've got speak. Boom. So speaking will allow us to have our buddy say things or to have us say things. And we'll go ahead and make this an objective that gets fired when we need to fire. So for that, we will simply put in some dialogue here that says, according to these readings, there's sharks. And we'll just see whether or not that automatically fires. It might. I don't remember how I set it up. But clearly that would be a good idea if I was going to do stuff. Make it so that it automatically... Okay, so that doesn't automatically fire. If we look down here into Mystery 1... Oh, for fuck's sake. The punishment for playing and then stopping your game has gotten really bad. It's like I can't test anything because every time I try and test it, there's a 30-second pause. Anyway, you can see how objectives and expositions need to be filled in. Oh, that's not what I wanted. That may have just crashed things. Oh no, it just filtered things. I'll just delete that. That was weird. This is what I wanted, auto-populate. But here you can see the exposition is empty because the auto-populate isn't auto-populating the exposition. So we're going to just take a quick little look here. Auto-populate, mission objectives, and mission scenes. So it might be that that doesn't count as a mission scene, and I need to have a mission scene as a separate thing. Let's take a look. Yeah. No biggie. So now we should be able to auto-populate. Boom. Obviously, that camera is trash. And the lighting is trash. But let's go ahead and set that up a little bit better. So we can actually fix the lighting and the camera just to take a look. It's going to take 15 or 20 minutes because it takes us 30 seconds to see if it worked. But basically here in the body, I don't know what that is. We have a couple of setups, and one of those setups is a camera. I believe it is inside the armature attached to the face. There it is. And you can see that it's just not right in the right position. And that's because this was created when we were, you can see how our head is actually distorted on the buddy. That's because the buddy hasn't been properly updated to the new model. But we can just go ahead and fake it. And we'll just add a tiny little light into our portrait cam. Just so that we're able to see the face a little bit better. Ah! Yes, that's definitely how we want it to look. Exactly right, sir. Just move it a little bit. This light doesn't appear to actually be affecting the model at all. Look, it's not... Is this model on the wrong plane? It just might also not be. Let's try it. Let's try it. It might be correct. It might be just that the scene view doesn't give a shit. We'll see shortly. Nope. So, for some reason, the light we mounted on the camera isn't actually lighting anything. And my guess is that's because it's on a layer change. This is on a default layer, though, so I'm not sure why it would... Is there a second light? There might be a second light, and so what we might have is... Yeah, so here's the spotlight. So what happened is I just grabbed the wrong light. This spotlight here... We're just going to move these bubbles down into this spotlight and delete that spotlight. The issue, of course, is that they're all screwed up. We're going to have to change this setup eventually anyway. There's not really a lot I can do about that. Carlos Cubster says, hello. Hello. We're making a diving game, and I'm trying to get my buddy to talk without looking like an evil monster. Obviously, it's still temporary, but at least now you can see there's a light on their face. What we're going to do is we're going to actually give our buddy a mask, because we're diving, right? And all sorts of other stuff. And so there'll be a lot of opportunity for us to decorate the facial region. And so even if it's dark, we're not going to have to use this bright camera. We're going to be able to see that it's our buddy thanks to like illumination inside of the goggles and stuff like that. Anyway, now that we can put together these kinds of missions pretty straightforward, pretty easy, we can simply duplicate and drop these tags, and we should get automatically led to the next element in the mission. So let's shrink up all of this flab. We don't need all this flab. And then we'll come down here into the objective, and you can see that we've got Mystery 1, and it is over here, right there. And it's floating a little bit high, so we can probably move it a touch. Why is it not? Oh, so Objective 1 is down here. That's fine. Move it down so it appears to be attached. Then we can just duplicate Mystery 1. We'll call it Mystery 1-1 because Unity is an idiot. So we're going to call this Mystery 1. And we're going to call this Objective 1, because for some reason that's how Unity does its numbers. Really dumb, but whatever. What can you do? So we're going to have another mystery, and this mystery is going to be over there somewhere. Boop. So with that in mind, we should now be able to get the mission auto-populate. You can see how there's now a Mystery 1 and a Mystery 2. So what we should have is a HUD guide. You can see the HUD guide there pointing. You can't see it, can you? I can't see it. All right, so we're going to look at the HUD guide, see what's up, because there's something screwy going on here. So the HUD guide is down here. And invisible? Der heck? Why am I opening files? That's not what I want to do at all. Close. 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 Hey, guess what? Close. Thank you. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Whatever. Either way, I wanted to look at the HUD guide and not whatever the hell's going on here. Maybe this is a problem. So basically this determines the target transform. Maybe what I'm doing here is I haven't got a good transform. No, I've got a transform. See, it's a mission objective. The mesh renderer doesn't have any value, I don't think, but it should be rendering at some point, right? Where is the object? So there's a cube. You can see that the cube is here. Let's replace the cube mesh with the HUD guide. Maybe I screwed up with the HUD guide and somehow made an invisible mesh. No, it looks pretty friggin' visible to me. Let's go ahead and see if that... No, it's not... It's not even vaguely in the right spot or pointed the right way. It is... So one of the problems we've got is that the z-axis is backwards, and I think I can fix that pretty easily. All I have to do is go over into the HUD guide. So I guess we do want this open for now, and rotate it 90 degrees. Not a big deal. Just rotate 90, apply rotation, save. And now you can see that it is pointed the right way, but it is upside down, so we can just reverse these. There we go. So that should be correct, but the problem is that the HUD guide is not being properly attached to the player, you can see how it is offset by 19.16. That should be a friggin' 0, big fat 0. It should look like this in terms of it being on the player. I don't know why it's offset. That's so strange. Let's open this up and see what it has to say for itself. What might be happening is the HUD guide might be in the wrong spot. So we're just going to unplay, wait 15 or 20 minutes for Unity to completely reload every possible thing that could be reloaded. We'll go over into the HUD guide here, which is right here. And you can see how it's offset. So we're just going to unoffset it. I think that offset was simply carried over incorrectly. And now you can see that what we've got is a... That's strange. That visual shouldn't be possible. Oh, I turned clipping off. That might be what's up. There we are. All right. Okay, I'm done sitting down and slouching. Let's sit up, readjust my mic. So now that I've hit a snag, it's time for me to stop being a sloth and start thinking about why this isn't working. And my guess is that it's not working because my UV map is wrong. When I did it before, I was taking into account what sort of texture was attached to the HUD guide, and that would be this indicator texture. The indicator texture should change tiling and offset based on how close you are and stuff like that. The problem is I don't remember anything about how I accomplished that, and I accidentally deleted it. For some reason it doesn't appear that those values... Oh, here it is. This is the value set that changes things. So, yeah, so maybe this is actually still wrong. Let's go ahead and unrotate this. I'm not sure how this is supposed to look. So if we actually look down here at the values, we can just select it. Here's the indicator, and you can see the indicator is like a blob. Just go there. Let me click on it. There we are. It's just a blob in the upper right-hand corner. So clearly something like this must be that looks right. All right, let's try it. I don't see anything. My guess is that this got triggered before there was a target because it only got triggered once. There's definitely a target now. You can see how the scale of X has dropped to 0. That shouldn't be what happens. That's not how it's supposed to work. So I guess we're going to have to go in and rebuild this hollow indicator because it's something that doesn't seem to be working anymore. I dropped the ball on this one. So we're going to pop up the guide element script and take a look at how we are calculating out these values. So we're using material property blocks. Material property blocks should mean that the material itself doesn't change. It's just this one rendering algorithm that changes. So if we change this X scaling, we should see the same thing that we would normally see. And so you can see that as it drops down towards 0, it becomes this lovely generic pattern. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for this lovely generic pattern. So for some reason, we were still getting something screwed up. So we're going to go ahead and just output what this is, debug.log mbp. We'll just go ahead and do the math again. 0. But it only fired once. It should be firing every frame. But if we look at the HUD guide, the 0 should be perfectly visible. It's not. For some reason, the HUD guide is invisible, despite the fact that it is... We just change this to something else like leaves. Okay, so you can see there. Whoa, you see that? That was weird. It popped into existence, then it vanished. That was weird stuff. If we change it out to something else, like, say, dull, you can see that it's working. It's specifically not pointing at the target, but that's on purpose. Due to the way that it actually runs, it's intended to be randomly off by some amount. And then if we tap this thing, boop, you can see how it moves to point to the target. That's correct. What isn't correct is the way that it's not properly updating. So if I unpause it, let's see if it puts back the correct material. I think it will. It deserializes everything else on the planet. Something wrong with this indicator, and the problem is that this is the setting it's supposed to be at. All I can think of is that maybe the tint is screwed up. Let's print out the tint too. So this is supposed to happen in update. All right, so it looks like we've got two different sections here. We got one for update, and we got one happening somewhere else that actually points the guide element at the... No, there it is. It's outside. There it is, right there. So when we look at whether pre-precision equals precision, precision is calculated out by looking at our range curve. So if we are beneath our range curve, this won't fire correctly. Let's take a look. So you can see that it has an alpha color of 0, and that's why it's barfing. So my guess is that we're inside of the minimum range, and that's why it has decided that it needs to be transparent like that. I'm going to go ahead and grab the player and move them a little bit farther away. Because it's supposed to fade out as you get close, since it's not actually directly... There we are. That is correct. Thank you. And you can see in the back there, we've got a little bit of something going on. That's fine. We can change it or not as we see fit. I actually think that the previous version of this didn't go all the way around. I think the previous version of it, like, capped out at like 270 degrees. So you can see how it fades out. Now with a 5-meter limit, the awkward orientation becomes really obvious, which is why it's supposed to fade out at like 10 or 15 meters. So we'll just go in and change that out to the thing it was before, 15. And I think that everything is working now. It's just a matter of repolishing it because I don't really need... Oh, look at that vibration. That's an animation playing twice. We'll figure it out later. So as we move towards this, you can see how it quickly fades out because you're so close that it can't point you any closer. That's the idea. And then the buddy says something. And then we're getting guided over to the next element. So there are a couple of basic elements that we know how to use. And the most basic one that I've created so far is a touchable box, but there are a lot of other things we could do. For example, a zone that you just walk into. All of these things need to be represented in a way where I, the mission creator, can create missions without getting confused about how things work. So what we're going to do now is we're going to upgrade the visualization of the missions so that I'm able to tell what the mission systems are. Here you can see that it's pointing in the wrong direction even as we get close. We're going to want to polish that a little bit so that it doesn't keep pointing in the wrong direction quite so badly. But we can deal with that later. Either way, when we click on this, we should get more Shark Story. So let's add in some extra visualization tools. Let me scratch my nose. There we are. So here you can see that we've got two mysteries attached to our mission, but our mission isn't really displaying those two mysteries at all. So we're going to want to go in and create an OnGizmoDraw setup for that. And you can see there is no OnGizmoDraw function, so let's create one. Protected void onDrawGizmos. So we're going to do a couple of things. The first thing we're going to do is if there are no mysteries, we're going to want to draw a big fat error. So if mysteries.count equals 0, return. But not before drawing a big fat error ball. So we'll just say gizmos.color equals color.red. Gizmos.draw sphere. Transform, not position. We'll just go ahead and we're going to need that a lot. Save ourselves a little bit of typing. And then we're going to draw a wire sphere. Like so. That'll allow us to see whether or not the mission has just errored out. Now, we won't be able to see anything right now because we actually have mysteries. So we're going to hit that big fat 0. And you can see that what happens is that our mission gets a circle drawn around it. And that happens regardless of where we are. So we should be able to notice pretty quickly that there is a red ball with a red ball. Only issue is that there are a lot of other noisy elements here, such as these ropes. And frankly, I'm not sure that the ropes are something that we need to constantly display like this. So what we're going to want to do is just turn the ropes off, which we can do by going down to our ropes, turning them off. No problem. That was something we may regret later if we forget about it, but that's going to be a lot cleaner when we're not actually working on the ropes in real time. And so this here is a big red ball. What we're going to want to do is take this big red ball and tell it to auto-populate. And now that it's auto-populated, we want it to draw a different set of parameters. For this, I'm going to go ahead and tweak this a little bit. It's clear that we do not want this on the back. So while we're here, I accidentally went over here, but while we're here, we might as well move this so that it is not catching quite as much of the elements as it was before. Just do it like that. All right, so it should affect this just a touch, but I think it already worked it out. So let's go back into the mission and get that working with the mysteries. So if the mission has mysteries, we're going to want to draw them in order. And basically what that means is we are going to draw ever thinner alpha lines. Actually, I think I want the alpha. I think what I want to do is draw a line to the first one, then the second one, then the third one, so on and so forth. So for that, we're going to go ahead and say gizmos.color equals color.yellow. And we're just going to go ahead and do a for each mystery M in mysteries. We're going to want to draw a line to the center of the mystery. Problem is, the center of the mystery is not necessarily where we would think it would be, but that's something we'll work with later. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and draw from pause gizmos.draw line. We're going to draw a line from pause to m.transform.position, and then we're just going to say pause equals m.transform.position. Easy enough, right? And that should give us like a wiry line moving from mystery to mystery, a golden thread. Boop. Only issue here is that the centers of these mysteries are not where we think they are. This mystery here is actually located at the same spot because I didn't put the mystery where the objective was. So what we're going to do, we have a couple of options. One is we can move the center of the mystery manually, but I think it makes more sense for the mystery to have a pause value. So we'll put it down here. And if there is nothing inside this scene, then we'll return our own position. Otherwise, we'll return the first objective. And then over here in the mission, we'll say pause instead. Now it should draw a line to the box. Yeah, perfect. So that's going to be the mission progression that we get if we are trying to do a mission. Only problem is that the mission start seems a little bit odd, so we're going to go ahead and create that mission start as another wire sphere. I think that that's probably fine. I don't think we need to make it complicated here. So that's going to be our kind of mission objective setup. So you can see how it just sort of draws the progression around. Now what we want to do is create mystery markers, because that's just the first objective in any given mystery. A mystery can have multiple objectives and multiple expositions. Right now we're only giving one. So what we're going to want to do is just have the mystery draw a thinner set of lines to each of its objectives. I don't believe we have, nope. So we'll just start off here. Public void onDraw, that's not how you spell it, and that's not supposed to be public. onDraw gizmos. Gizmos, oh, gizmo, yep. Gizmos.color equals color.yellow. We're going to want to actually create a different set of colors. Equals new color 1, 1, 0. That's not yellow. Red and green is, oh, that is yellow, yeah. 0.5F, there we are. And that's fine, but we actually need to say that if we've only got one objective, we're not going to bother. Vector 3, pause equals objectives 0.transform.position. That's not how you spell any of that shit. And then we're going to go ahead and say for var a equals 1. That's not var. Too much JavaScript. Int a equals 1. A is less than objectives.count a++. My fingers don't work. I spent all day doing debugging tasks, so basically my brain is in tired mode, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing we did before. Objectives, nope, sorry, gizmos.drawLine from pause to objectives a.position. And then we just say pause equals this. And that will allow us to draw a line to all of our objectives when we have more than one. So the big deal here is that these mysteries are not necessarily one objective. They can be multiple objectives. And the thing is, as you find the objectives, the story will always unfold in the same order. So if I've got 5 objectives and 5 exposition beats, then regardless of the order in which I find the objectives, I'll get the same story. And that's what we're going to be doing here. This setup where we've got 2 separate objectives, we're not actually going to be doing it like that. We're going to have the room 1 be a single mystery, and if we auto-populate, you can see that we now have objective 1 and objective 1. So we're just going to call this objective 2 for the sake of having the correct naming conventions. and we drag this up above it. And here's objective 2 over here. If we take objective 2, we can change the script. Now, the script is currently attached to the objective, which makes it seem a little bit strange, because what we're doing is we're finding any random objective and it's playing the next dialogue bit, regardless of which thing is attached to. So even though these dialogue bits are attached to the objectives, they are not actually part of the objectives. So it would make more sense for them to not be on the objectives. However, it happens to be an easy way to organize them, so that's what we're going to do. So for the first objective, we're going to go ahead and say objective 1 found. And then for the second objective, we're going to say objective 2 found. Now notice that the objective 2 found is the one over here in the corner, right? So what happens when I go and I grab the player and I move them over to that objective? And then what happens when we start with that objective? It should say objective 1 found, even though we're actually finding objective 2. That was barfed because I screwed up the mission. I deleted one of the mysteries and I didn't recompile the mission. Give me a second here. Give me 15 minutes while it reloads everything from the basic idea here. So auto-populate. That'll fix that error. And then we have this objective over here. Oh, we can get rid of those debugs. I didn't click it. There we are. No, it said objective 2 found. That's funny. Good thing I tested it. No, that's not what I wanted to click on. You moved the shit and then registered my click from 15 minutes ago, you asshole. There we are. Alright, so it looks like the mysteries are not as separated as I thought, or maybe they're just in the wrong order. If we take a look at the mystery that we set up, so you can see they're in the wrong order. What kind of idiot put that together, huh? There we are. Put it in the correct order and try again. Yeah, see how that time we found objective 1, even though that's actually objective 2. And if we come over here and we find objective 1, it's kind of quite a bit of a swim. I already know it'll say objective 2 found. Perfect. And you can see that it said mission is complete, self-destructing. So that was the entire mission. If we had another mystery, it would have pointed us to the next mystery. Now the only issue I've got is that this gray line here is not, that yellow line there is not nearly thin enough for what we're trying to accomplish. So we're going to go ahead and bring that down to 0.2 instead of 0.5 because it was way too bright. I want it to be clear that it's a sub-objective. There, that'll do. So with this in mind, we can put some objectives in the area and have the player kind of catch them as they, as they want. There's no need to get one or the other more specifically. So if we just put another objective over here, boom, and we can set up this system to just do however we want. We can have whatever dialogue we want. We can do whatever we want. It's probably worth putting in a little bit of dialogue here to sort of set up the basic ideas. Let's put this piece of dialogue, or this piece of mission, not against the wall, but in the rocks like this. The problem is that if we write it, that's not what I wanted. Move the objective, not the cube. Problem is that if we write it, we're kind of stuck with it. And and I don't really know how many objectives I want. So what we're going to do is we're going to just plant some objectives, and we will change what the dialogue says later. So with this in mind, we should be able to build a level that allows these objectives to be hidden. And there might be more than just these 3. We might have like 5 or 6. But anyway we slice it, what we're going to want to do is allow the player to find them in any order they please. All right, well, we've gone ahead and made sure everything works again. We've corrected everything that was busted. There's one more thing we have to do, and that is, in case you're wondering, I'm getting ready to stop because it's been more than an hour, and my stomach is grumbling. I completely changed my eating habits because I got my stove back, and my stomach's like, hey, dude, you didn't let us know this was going to happen. So what we've got to do is I've got to fix that. So if target, I can just say, if target return 0. So that'll stop the error we were getting where it was just popping up an error right at the beginning of the scene. So you can see that it's not giving us any tips as to where the next objective is, which is not what I expected. If we take a look at the HUD guide here, it's completely opaque, or completely transparent, and I'm not sure whether that's because we're too close. Yeah, I think it's because we're too close. So if we pull away a little bit further, yeah, you can see how it pops right back in. Woo. It didn't say anything. Oh, there we are. We just need to change the collision protocol so that it doesn't suck. Because right now, if you get too close, it errors out, and that's not what I want. Obviously, getting so close to something that you forget about it is kind of a dumb approach. So this is supposed to be Baby's first room. I don't want to make anything too complicated. I'll probably... Pink Hair stopped in. Hey, Pink Hair, you're just in time to watch me stop. I've been putting the mission objectives back in place, getting the missions going again. It took a little bit of doing, but it's starting to come together a little bit. Once again, I need to fix that little element. And so having the mission objectives working is going to allow us to actually build mission elements, and that'll allow us to actually build the levels, because until we have mission elements, the levels are kind of never going to come together. In this case, I'm thinking that mostly this level is not going to be complicated. It's just, or rather, this room is not going to be complicated. It's just going to have a bunch of surface debris, similar to this area over here, because for your first room, that makes the most sense. It's when things get complicated later that you have to worry about whether or not you know where you're going. For this room, I want the player to be able to just rise above the debris as necessary, and then to find specific things, they'll go down into the debris and take a look. But it's not going to be something where there are actual navigation challenges at this stage. All right, well, thanks for coming by, especially Pink Hair, who came in 3 seconds ago. I think it's about time for me to stop. Yeah, one of these buttons stops stuff. See you around. If you have any questions, I'll pay attention to chat for a little while, but I think me and my stomach have got to go have a chat about dinner.